the new Specialized SL1.2 motor. What is new? How does it compare to the original 1.1? And is it the right e-bike motor for you? Riders, welcome back to Sam's Bikes, where you know we only talk e-bikes, and today is all about the new Specialized SL 1.2 motor. How does it feel out in the trails? How's the range? How does it ride above the limiter or when the motor's off? How does it compare to the original 1.1 motor? And loads more. And riders, if one section interests you more, there are timestamps. And a massive shout out to Crank Brothers, a major sponsor at Sam's Bikes. I've been using the Stamp large pedals and the Stamp shoes, and I've absolutely loved this combo. The large pedals, for me, they give absolutely amazing balance when you're going down a downhill. So if your foot moves a little bit, you still feel balance on the bike, and then when you finish the downhill, you can reposition your feet. Absolute game changer. And the legends at Crank Brothers are giving you legends a 15% discount code off everything on the Crank Brothers website. Check it out, link in the show notes. So over the last 6 months, I've been lucky enough to be testing the Levo SL Gen2, and the review is coming very soon. But the cliff notes, what an absolute beast of an e-bike. Think Stunt Jumper Evo on steroids. This bike is such a natural feeling bike. But it's not about the Levo SL today. It is all about the SL 1.2 motor, which was released about 9 months ago and has 15 Nm of torque, 320 watts of peak power, an internal 320 watt-hour battery. Also, a 160 watt-hour range extender is available. Improved soundproofing over the 1.1, and it's coming in at an impressive 1.9 kilos. And the overall system weight for the motor, battery, display, and remote is just over 4 kilos. So that's a whopping 43% more torque and 33% more peak power over the original SL 1.1 motor. And in my test bike, the Levo SL S-Works, it's coming in at 17.7 kilos, which is impressive. And I also want to mention, which is quite obvious just for its name, the Specialized SL 1.2 motor. This is an exclusive system that you're only going to find on Specialized e-bikes. Now let's talk appearance and integration. And I'd have to say my Levo SL Gen2 S-Works is the most beautiful e-bike in my stable. And what about the integration of the 1.2 motor? Look, you can see it. It's probably not as minimalistic as the Fazua or the TQ, but that doesn't really bother me. I think the overall package is absolutely beautiful. If you look at the remote, the integration of the Mastermind in the down tube here, I think it is really beautiful integration. And the most important part of the review, how does the SL 1.2 motor feel out in the trails? Well, I absolutely love this system and motor. I love the natural pedal stroke. I love the extra peak power and torque. I absolutely love there's no rattle or clunk when you're smashing down a downhill. And I also love that it is quieter than the original 1.1 motor. I also love the seamless decoupling. So when you're above the limiter, so in Europe above 25 Ks, you cannot feel it decouple. So when you're over that 25 Ks, it has pretty much zero drag. And also, when the motor is off, there's pretty much zero drag. So when you're riding on the flat, you can turn the motor off to conserve the battery. I also enjoyed the wider cadence range on the 1.2 motor. So from my testing, you can actually take it down to about 30 or 40 RPM of cadence, and the motor's still pulling. It does bog down a little bit, and from my testing, the motor's pulling quite nicely at around 50 RPM up to 100, and I would say the sweet spot's around 75 to 85. And now let's talk about sound. And as I said, there's new and improved soundproofing on the 1.2 motor over the original 1.1. And it's a major improvement. The motor is a lot quieter. I wouldn't say it's silent, but at the same time, it's definitely not annoying. But let's head out to the trails and you can hear for yourself. Okay, so this is a real world sound test. So at the moment, the motor is off. Now let's go into Eco. Now trail. And now, turbo. And I would say, as I said, you can hear it, but it's definitely not annoying. Okay, let's talk about how the 1.1 compares to the 1.2, because I know a lot of you riders out there are thinking about upgrading and just seeing what those real world differences are. And I'm going to break it down into 4 parts. First up, we've got peak power and extra torque, and it is definitely noticeable over the 1.1. So that 50 Newton meters, it feels like you have an extra assistant mode. So in turbo, in the 1.1, it feels like in the 1.2, you have like nitrous. So definitely that is worth it. And then we've got sound. So sound, I'm gonna say, is a massive improvement over the 1.1, and you heard it before. And then we've got cadence. So on the 1.1 motor, what I noticed is the motor really liked to be in higher cadences, kind of around 75 to 90, where it pulled the most. And if you got your gears wrong on a steep climb, the motor could and would bog down and make it harder to pedal, so you had to change those gears very quickly. And what I really like in the 1.2 is you've got a wider cadence range, which I'm saying around 50 to 100, and the peak or the optimum is around 80. And then we've got range or the autonomy of the battery. And in the 1.2, if you ride the bike in turbo the whole time, you are going to drain the battery a little bit quicker than on the original 1.1. And that's because we've got more power, more torque, it's a more powerful motor. But what I've been running it in about 90% of the time, and I will talk about it next in the range, I've been running it in the trail setting with ease at 50% and motor power at 100. So what that is doing is kind of an automatic mode, and it's allowing you to access all the torque, but not all the peak power. So you put a bit of power in from your legs, and the torque just helps the pedals turn over. And it's kind of like being spotted at the gym, just keeping that weight moving. And in that setting, I've been getting fantastic range. And now into connectivity and tunability of the motor and system. And without a doubt, the Specialized app is an absolute standout and a massive point of difference for Specialized e-bikes. You can easily tune your motor, get the most out of that system. You can also connect a heart rate monitor to the system. You can see it in the mission control. You can do micro tune, so go up in 10% increments. It's definitely world leading in the electric mountain bike applications, I believe. And a real world case study of how I use the system is I always go out with my heart rate monitor here. I have it set up so I can see it on my Mastermind. And let's say I'm going out with 3 or 4 different riders, different fitnesses, different bikes. I want to get a workout. So the best thing about the Specialized app is it's always connected. So I pull my phone out, or I have it on my quad lock here, and I look at my heart rate, and I want it to be around 130 to 140 for a bit of fat burning. So I can tune the system as I'm riding up that first fire road. For me, it's an absolute massive point of difference, and I always use that. And riders, if you do have a Specialized e-bike and you haven't played with the new Specialized app, I highly recommend it. And we have done a deep dive on the whole application. Check it out in the show notes. When the new Levo SL Gen2 was released, I did have my concerns about range. We had more torque and more peak power and the same 320 watt hour battery. But I'm happy to tell you riders, I've had 0 problems on range in the last 6 months. And that's how I ride the bike. I always ride it about 95% of the time in trail, in 50% ease and 100% motor power. And as I said, that puts you in kind of like an automatic mode. So you can access the full 50 Newton meters of torque, but not the full peak power. You put the power in from your legs and the torque just helps spin over those cranks. And for me, not only does it give me a really natural pedal stroke because you have some resistance, it feels like you're actually pedaling something. It gives me a great workout and it doesn't drain the battery that fast. But for the e-bike geeks out there like me, I did, of course, do an extreme range test where I put the 1.2 motor in 100% assistance, so full power everything, and looped my favorite downhill with the 320 watt hour internal battery and the range extender. So we got 2 hours and 33 minutes in the saddle, 34.8 kilometers, and my average heart rate was 124. And we got a very impressive 1,221 vertical meters of climbing. And some of you riders out there might be thinking, how would that compare to a full-powered electric mountain bike like the Levo? Well, I did do that test as well about a year ago. So the Levo has 700 watt-hour battery and 90 newton meters of torque from the Bros Mag S. So obviously you're gonna ride faster and you're gonna do less work with the full-powered electric mountain bike. But as far as range goes, they are quite comparable. So on the full-powered Levo, we actually got 100 meters more of vertical climbing on the full-powered electric mountain bike. So as you can see, they are quite comparable. But the long and the short of it, for me, for range, absolutely no problem the Levo SL Gen2, especially if you set it up like I do. And riders, if you want to do more than 1,000 meters of vertical climbing, I would definitely consider getting a range extender. And without a doubt, one of the most asked questions on the channel, can you ride a Levo SL with a full-powered electric mountain bike? Well, I'm going to say yes and no. If you're a super fit rider, you definitely can, like my mate Pablo. He has no problems. I'm not the fittest rider in the world. It is possible. You're going to need a range extender and you're going to have to ride in turbo most of the time, and you're going to have to ask your mates to ride in eco or trail, but it definitely is possible. And it's not all gravy. The things I would improve on the SL1.2 motor. First up, the bike is super light, 17.7 kilos. Obviously that's a pro, but I would like to see two battery options that you select when you buy the bike. A 320, a super light battery, or maybe a 450, giving you a little bit more autonomy out in the mountains. And that's probably going to add 1 or 1.5 kilos to the weight of the bike. It's still probably going to be sub 19, and I would probably choose the bigger battery over the lighter bike. And also they could do a 250 watt-hour range extender. So at the moment you've got the 160, they could do a bigger one, and obviously you select that when you purchase as well. But also saying that, there's a massive pro to the Levo SL and the Kenevo SL is the fact that you can actually take out the external battery, which takes you about 30 minutes, and you can fly with two range extenders, so 160 watt hours. You can put two in your take-on luggage and take your bike on holidays. So that's a massive pro for this system. And I actually did it in Poland and it worked seamlessly. And also what I'd like to see is, so in microtune, you can go up in 10% increments. So like a treadmill, it gives you 10% of the power of the motor. What I'd love to see is microtune in a dynamic mode. So it kind of turns it into 10 automatic modes. So it ramps up. So the more you put in, you can access the full torque, because it's a super light. You do want to be like, you don't want to be in turbo all the time because you will drain that battery. And it's just really nice and natural feeling motor. I'd love to be able to have your heart rate connected and just really play around with those 10 assistant modes and just keep my heart in the optimum like fat burning mode. And the last one is less about the motor and more about the spec of the bike. The Levo SL Gen2 comes with 170 cranks. Now for me, at the moment, I'm riding most of my full powered at 155. I'm running my original Kenevo SL with 160s. I just think 160s on this bike is better. One, you've got more clearance, and two, it helps keep that cadence in the perfect sort of 75 to 80 cadence zones. And who is the SL1.2 motor for? Well, I see it perfect for anyone that wants a natural feeling mountain bike ride with a little bit of help. It definitely feels like you're riding an analog bike on steroids. It's giving you 2 times your power, where something like the Levo is giving you 4 times. But it's definitely a natural, dynamic feeling ride. And I also see it perfect for someone that maybe has a young family, is not going out training as much as possible, and they want to go riding still with their analog group of friends. You can definitely do that. You might get a little bit of crap from your friends, but it's definitely perfect for that. And lastly, I see it perfect for someone that doesn't like the idea of lifting a heavy e-bike onto the bike rack or up a flight of stairs if you live in an apartment. This is definitely a lot more manageable. And actually a couple of years ago when we were in Switzerland, I saw a few couples in their camper vans and they had Levo SLs, the Gen 1, And I was interested to see why they'd had that. And they said to me, it was because they could easily put it onto the bike rack and it charged quicker on their off-grid systems. So I definitely see it perfect for that style of rider as well. And riders, we're down to the conclusion and the million-dollar question. Would I buy the Levo SL Gen2 with the SL 1.2 motor today with my hard-earned cash? I'm gonna say bloody oath. I love the system, love the bike, the natural feeling pedal stroke, the extra power, because the 1.1 for me really wasn't enough power. I'm gonna say the 50 Newton meters of torque, the 320 watts of peak power is my sweet spot, because I'm not that fittest rider out there. But yeah, I reckon Specialized have knocked it out of the park. Definitely recommend it. And riders, that's it for me today. If you haven't subscribed to Sam's Bikes, please do so. Share it with like-minded people. It really means a lot. And we are gonna see you next week.